Ultimately, when a next-generation aircraft, such as the 787 Dreamliner, enters the aviation industry, it almost feels inevitable that there will be discussions about a prospective freighter variant or further development for this variant to leverage the success and capabilities of the initial passenger jet. This variant that I'm speaking of could potentially extend the production life, provide an additional revenue source, and boost efficiency for operators, all the while allowing the 787 to live through multiple lives. The 787 freighter has been a topic of frequent discussion and has garnered a lot of interest around our industry from both analysts to onlookers. Let me now explore this unreleased, but like I said, much discussed freighter. The 787F talk has emerged several times now, primarily as Boeing has looked to move forward with its new era of freighter offerings, led by comments coming directly from the source, and that is the outgoing Boeing CEO of Dave Calhoun, and is broken by several trade publications such as Bloomberg. The 787F is one of the many options being considered by the plane maker for its future freight needs. There is absolutely one thing Boeing knows, and that is it will not be permitted to continue producing other older generation freight planes, as it needs to comply with emission rules around the world, and therefore replacements are being discussed. The 777F replacement has come in the form of the newly announced 777-8F, which should enter the industry towards the latter stages of this decade, whereas the 767F really stands true as a very popular freighter variant that is still garnering a lot of interest and considered a replacement for many companies looking to phase out even older freighter aircraft. But a replacement still needs to be considered, and that's where the 787F steps in. The plane maker has actually stated publicly that such a variant could be their desired answer as they move towards offering greater efficiency and obviously harmony across their network. It isn't a lie that the 787 for passenger operations has been absolutely game-changing for so many airlines, and Boeing would hope similar could be achieved thanks to a freighter conversion. On either this could be aging units, say come the 2030s, when some of your 787s are actually approaching 2 decades, or even as a pure-born freighter that'd be able to fly, say, into the 2050s and 2060s. And as I've stated a couple of times in this video already, one of the things about the 787F to take into consideration is, while a lot of people in the past will have mentioned it with no true backing, the discussions have actually seen Boeing executives make mention of it as an option. Dave Calhoun said in recent years that they'd need to pace themselves with regards to their freighter aircraft portfolio. Basically, they didn't want to pull any trigger too soon and have negative ramifications from that decision. Ultimately, what's happened since those comments and the idea of pacing themselves to Boeing has been far from favourable. Now, their focus lies elsewhere, on factors such as repairing the business, which has been placed into disarray and damaged so much, rather than, say, continuing to move forward solely with these freighter-type discussions. They know their place, and they know there's a lot they need to get right. Furthermore, Boeing did also announce its 777-8F, which I touched on, and they're hoping to ship this off to customers towards the latter stages of this decade. And to be completely honest, if you're looking at their freighter offering, yes, their main priority is to get away those passenger planes, but the 777-8F on the freighter side is another important matter. There is definitely more worth considering though. What about demand for a 787F? This is where many have mixed opinions and where I'd love to get your take down below in the comments. The current market for a 787 freighter certainly appears to be mixed. Now, on one hand, we saw that surge of cargo demand that was experienced during the pandemic, and that has normalized, plateaued if you will. It's led many freight companies to scale back their expectations, report reductions in the overall tonnage carried, and it's even allowed companies such as FedEx, most recently, to ship off aging fleet types in favor of, you guessed it, more efficient operations. Now, interestingly, they look towards the 777F and 767F as a means to become more efficient, but there's more to it in the future than just that. It is also worth mentioning, I feel, that some freight companies have slowed down their growth, really tempering their expectations for new aircraft deliveries and even new aircraft orders. They believe they need to watch how the market unfolds before making any large investments. The 767F has really performed well in this environment. Not only does it effectively meet cargo needs at a great operating level, but it's been a proven long-term success, whether it was with your passenger operations or with your freighter needs. It is continuing also that theme of being a workhorse. However, as touched on and as we all know, the long-term vision of a 767F isn't necessarily the same as what a 787F would offer. There's much to consider and a lot of associated evaluation required internally at both freight companies and Boeing too. One thing on the side of this prospective variant that I speak of is it being more fuel efficient and also environmentally friendly, which could appeal to cargo operators that are looking to reduce not only their operating costs, but comply with those emission regulations that I spoke of earlier. Which is already why we're seeing the launch of next-gen freighters looking to enter the industry in the next 5 to 10 years. What is important to also consider is the associated costs. While not as obviously high as what would be required for, say, a clean sheet, converting the 787 into a freighter does involve considerable modifications, including reinforcing the fuselage for cargo operations, making changes for payload and loading capabilities. Furthermore, there are other challenges such as the materials used. You'd need to look at the structural integrity of the plane to ensure that it remains, and even look at the size of the Boeing 787. How is this going to fit into already existing parking bays? What does this change at freight companies' home bases? While Boeing has publicly expressed consideration for the 787F in the last 4 to 5 years, it is also something it would have needed to have done some time ago when it first explored the 787 passenger variant. Much needed to be factored in, and no doubt they were going to always look towards a 787F as a long-term solution. Doesn't mean they would go ahead and launch it, but it had to be up for consideration. Really, as well, if Boeing is progressing into this new era of travel, and I'm looking towards the 2030s, maybe that's when a new type of freighter emerges in this market. Can freight operators hang on that long? Is there a means to efficiently launch and quickly launch the 787F at a price that sees it obtain orders that really mean it is a profitable program? Let me know. But also remember that Boeing has already announced plans to shift engineers away from future programs such as the X-66A because of the disarray it finds its current commercial aircraft programs in. Its priorities have really been shifted because of all the issues. Now, this doesn't mean the company is completely abandoning looking towards the future. If it did that, it would be even more in disarray in 10 to 20 years. It knows how important the future is, but it also knows it has a lot of issues it needs to work through. So when taking a look at this freighter market in the next 5 to 10 years, do you believe there's room for a 787 freighter? Yay or nay? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It is really appreciated. Please take care, be safe, subscribe to GlobeTrotting if you haven't already, and I'll see you in a couple of days for your latest industry analysis.